Yeah, there's a quote that says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.
Hey guys, we got our brand new product, the Ultimate YouTube Marketing Guide ebook. I want you guys to click down on the subscription. This is going to give you impactful information. I've gotten so many different ebooks from different people, and it's basically basic stuff. This goes from basic to intermediate to advanced. If you've never done YouTube marketing before, this is the jam. I want you guys to go check it out. It's fun. I'm completely giving this away. Bro, I've discounted 70%.
Woo!
Right?
That's big, bro. We got to talk after the pod.
Yeah.
70%?
70% off. Limited time only. The link's in the description. Go and get it. Deuces.
We in the place, man. Y'all understand it's the D&D Leveling Up podcast. We are here. We are at another location, y'all. We on a spree. We on the travel.
We're on the
We
road.
on like a little cruise, 7 days. You know what I'm saying? So, Dirk.
Yes, sir.
Once again, I give you the honors, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
It's King D Money.
TTMT.
Right here on the D&D Level Up podcast.
Exactly, man. You know how we do it.
TTMT, man. Tell them what we're here for, man.
So we're here to introduce an amazing human being, Dr. Trahern Lafavor. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you having me here.
So we're actually basically what we're doing. We're interviewing Dr. Trahern right now on his new book, or one of his books. So he actually has more than one book. He informed me, Rebuilding and Repairing Relationships. So we're gonna basically talk. He's gonna basically talk to us about basically his book and aspects. He's also been a former NFL player as well. For the Bears, as well as for Chicago Bears, as well as the Dolphins too.
Yes, I was the team commissioner for the Dolphins.
Amen. All right, let's go. That's good. All right, so Doc, we're going to talk about several different aspects. We're going to talk about your past. Give us an introduction, basically who you are, where you come from.
Okay. So my journey began. I'm born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay.
And went to local high schools here. I went to Dillard High School. I was fortunate to graduate from Dillard, and I received a scholarship to the University of Florida, where I played 4 years at the University of Florida. And I was blessed to be drafted into the NFL in 2003.
Yeah.
I was drafted by Chicago Bears, pick number 171. That was a blessing to have that experience.
I can imagine. So how hard is it to get into? Because people think that just because you do certain things that anybody can just get into the NFL. It's not that easy, right?
No, it's not that easy. Our research said about 26,000 players have played in the NFL, and I was blessed to be one of them. But it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline, determination to reach the goal, and obviously having faith in God. That helps.
Yeah, that would.
That's a lot.
So that opened up doors and gave me favor. So
What position did you play?
I was actually a defensive tackle. So when I played, I was like the most I weighed 306 pounds.
Oh wow! So you was up there.
Yes.
You're not anywhere like that now.
You did the thing. 230?
Yeah.
Oh, the B230. Go roll with this. Oh, the B230, man.
So Doc, so you were in the NFL for how long?
I actually played for 2 years. In 2 years, I played for 4 teams. I got drafted by the Bears. After being released from the Bears, I got picked up by the Carolina Panthers. Spent some time there, and then I was shortly released after that. Got picked up by the Cowboys, and the final team I was with was the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, wow. So you had a long journey going through different teams. So you have a lot of experience just going through these teams. So like in these experience, what was the journey like going through these teams? I mean, do you see a difference in terms of the coaching style, the amount of the camaraderie between the teams? What was your insight into that?
Yeah, for me, the journey, obviously, all the guys play with great passion, and they love the game. But for me, my journey was more so not only athletic, but spiritual as well. So I would say each team, I learned something from my journey with the Carolina Panthers. Remember being there, and one of the coaches, he was talking to me about sports, but then we also started talking about faith, which was my passion, because even as I was on each team, I was doing spiritual, not only athletic, but spiritual work as well. So he talked to me about, God will continue the work he has begun in you. So there was like a spiritual lesson that I learned there. For the Cowboys, it was a blessing to be there. I learned the importance of just, being humble.
Okay.
One of the great teams
Yeah.
of history, but just being humble. And finally, the Ravens, man, they did everything with passion. Ray Lewis was there when I was there, and a group of guys, but they were just really passionate about the game, and I learned that. So these skills from the NFL, they're transferable. So the same passion that you use to play sports, same passion I transitioned when you released from the league, and take that into life to work towards other goals.
Gotcha.
Man.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Sure.
One thing that I do realize is that, like, when you're in the NFL as a spiritual person who's coming in, you were kind of prepared a little bit because your father's a pastor.
Yes.
And you're also a pastor and a minister yourself,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So how did that undercurrent? Because when you deal with the NFL, there's a lot of temptation that's out there, and there's a lot of things that you have to deal with when it comes to money and women and things to that effect. People having a certain amount of things. How did you not get sucked in to all that stuff that was going on there?
It's a great question. What helped me to remain focused? I had a strong spiritual foundation. Grew up in the church. Obviously, we're here interviewing in the church. I grew up.
We're in the church, guys. This isn't CGI. This ain't a Zoom.
This is the place I actually grew up. Here. In the church, and but what kept me grounded, my faith, and actually at the University of Florida, that really set the stage for me. I started doing team Bible studies there because although we play this game, but guys, they have challenges.
Yes.
And speaking of the book, Rebuilding and Repairing Relationships, we all have challenges. So I was fortunate to not only bring spiritual, but just, bringing that clinical piece later on to my work. So when I went to the league, I continued doing team Bible studies, helping guys, because believe it or not, every team, they have chaplains, and we also want to connect to faith. Many of the guys, man, when they made it, they didn't forget a person who had a key contributing factor to their lives to help them to make it to the league. So they always, kept that, and I was able to build on that when I got to the league.
Okay, that's good, Doc. One thing I want to ask you now, why did you leave? Now, going into the aspect of your book, and you kind of explain this in the book, but you have a little bit of a question. Why did you leave the NFL to become a counselor? Like, that's a whole big dichotomy. Like, most people are like, why would you want to go do that to help other people?
Was it a leave or a run?
Right? A little bit of both, right?
It's like,
it's interesting you asked that question. Like, why did I leave the NFL to become a counselor? Actually, that's one of the first questions. I do a lot of work with youth and families, the young people. Like, why did you leave the NFL to be a counselor?
on,
and I often say to come work with you, right? Because I want to be a great help. But why did I leave? I left actually because I got released my first year. I was drafted by the Bears, as I mentioned. But shortly after, I found myself in the coach's office, and he said that we have to let you go because with the NFL, it's a numbers game. About 600 players, they come in, and then 600 players are released yearly. So I was released my first year, but during that conversation, Coach said, "Trahern, we have to release you, but you're going to be okay." And I'm like, "I'm going to be okay."
I'm going to be okay.
Right?
Are you thinking I'm not missing out? I'm missing out on millions of dollars. You're thinking about
Did I miss something you said before this?
I know, right? But I think he just reflected on, my character and my faith. He knew that I had a foundation, and I had a plan, even though I got released shortly. So I was able to successfully transition out of the league, and quickly after, my family, they embraced me back home, and they gave me some options about things I can do. Funny story, actually, when I came home, I was figuring it out, and I said, what am I going to do next? My father said, "You're going to have to do something." So I actually went to a grocery store and filled out the application. That was good for my humility, right?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
But it was a big shift for me.
It's a humbling experience.
Very humbling. But through life, it's so important to be humble. And that was something that really helped me to be humble, helped me successfully transition out, and then I started building my life after that.
So let me ask you a question now. I know you're going to ask.
A question?
I'm trying to get all the questions.
We're going to get saucy right now. You 8 questions?
Okay, go ahead, Doc. You go ahead.
No, I'm not.
You good?
Nah, man. What do you? As I've been listening to these 8 questions, we're gonna do this the right way.
Go
Personality, this gonna go. This the ratings right here. This is what it's
Exactly.
on. What's the difference? Because I'm going through something right now in my life. What do you feel is the difference in between a shift to humbleness and waiting on God to give what you may have been promised from Him? Because you may have been promised something that's beyond your, let's say,
Your ability.
physical reach or money or this, that, and the other. But some things make you feel like I need to step down to go up.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
I'm in that spot where I'm going, Lord, are you telling me I need to humble myself and build? Or are you telling me, wait on me, I got you? Either way.
I love that. I love that. And what comes to mind, actually, when you said that, there's a text in the Bible that says, if you humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, I'll exalt you in due time, right? And I think sometimes we find ourselves, I've been there before, we slightly get from under God's hand. It has a way, through circumstances, through life, to get us to that place where we become humble, removing the pride, right?
Yeah.
And when He knows we're ready, it's like a parent, right? A parent really knows when their child is ready for something.
Yeah.
True.
Right. And sometimes that waiting, it helps you to value it that much more.
Right.
And when you finally get it, right, you don't forget to be grateful.
Yep.
And that's what resonates with me.
It's not just time; it's the due before the time.
I know, right?
This is like due time.
I know, right? Due time.
You couldn't just say time. It doesn't just say time.
I know, right?
It
due
says
time.
due
right?
time.
Yeah. And then you think like, wow, God, my timing is not your timing, right? I remember when I was waiting for a good wife, man. It felt like forever.
That due,
right?
In due time.
But in due time, it's a blessing in waiting.
Yeah.
Because you want God's best.
Yes, true.
And when we can wait, and there's a poem that talks about not being tired by waiting. And if we can just wait on God, man, it's just a blessing in that.
That's the thing that we have to deal with, that waiting. Because, it's like that. You would have songs about it, wait on God.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not easy, though.
It's not easy.
It's easy to say, but it's not easy. We live in such an instant culture when everything is immediate gratification.
Yeah.
So instant that we have to practice that. It's a daily
we have to
thing.
practice it a daily thing, right?
Yeah.
Woo. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a heavy one right now.
That's a heavy one.
For me. I'm like, I try to study the word as, words. And when you put that do in front of there, it ruined it.
I know.
Time was already long.
Yeah. I know. Enjoy the journey. Though.
Enjoy the journey.
It's all about enjoying the journey.
Enjoy the journey, y'all.
We want to get to the destination, but it's all about enjoying the journey. And I had to learn that.
It's a good one.
What is your last question on the NFL? Last question. You know what?
I'm trying to get him to change the A question for you. That's what I'm trying to get him to change. A question. Say another.
This is good.
Don't say another. Just ask the question.
So we're transparent.
We're very. We coach each other and we go through this thing.
I
And
love
we go, come on.
transparency.
Yeah, exactly. We try to better each other. We level up.
Level up every time.
So now, what did the NFL teach you? That's part of the aspects of your books.
Awesome.
What did the NFL teach you?
For me, it taught me discipline, right? Because discipline is your ability to do something when you don't feel like it.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
And so it taught me that. Hard work, that's so essential. It taught me that as well. And it was really a life lesson. My grandfather, he lived to be shy of 103.
Wow.
And he used to always talk to me about hard work, it won't kill you, right?
Yeah.
So just go out there and work hard, and your gift will make room for you. My father always said. So I had these tools, but I was able to put them in practice in the NFL. Being passionate, that's something that I learned. Being passionate about the game, being passionate about life. So that's something that resonated with me. And helping others, because in the league, you give back, which is so important. So they teach you to do that. So those are some lessons that resonate with me.
Okay. So you are a licensed therapist.
Yes.
So explain to us basically what your therapy. Now we know that you went from a counselor, you also from the NFL, you're a player to a counselor.
Yes.
And so give us that transition. So how did you get to that point?
Yes. Actually, when I was released from the NFL, I remember the Sunday when I returned to church, and one of my good friends, his name is Thomas, he was a licensed marriage and family therapist. And as soon as I walked through the door, I'm like, man, all of the feelings that I have about how to start the next chapter of my life. First thing he said to me is, "Good to see you. And I know a career that would be great for you," because he knew my father. He's a Christian counselor,
Okay.
and he knew I love helping people.
Right.
Even before I made it to the NFL, I was working in the church, helping with the elderly, helping with the youth. So he said, "Man, if you become a licensed marriage and family therapist, that would be a great asset to your ministry." So at the time, I just put it in the back of my mind because I was still working through these emotions of not playing. But I decided to enroll later on at Nova Southeast University, and I began that journey towards my master's in marriage and family therapy. And I was able to later on take the test, and then I decided to pursue my PhD
Okay.
in marriage and family therapy.
Excellent. Dr. Moore, we're going to talk about your book. We're going to talk about this
Get
book.
into it, huh?
Let's get into this book.
Awesome.
Rebuilding and Repairing Relationships. You did this book in tandem with your father.
Yes,
that's
yes.
So how did that? How was that transition in working with your father?
Oh man, that was a great blessing. It took us over a year to write the book, but we wanted to integrate the spiritual and the clinical. Obviously, my father pastoring for over 45 years of this church.
Yes.
Seeing so many challenges and problems that people face, and obviously on the clinical side, as a marriage and family therapist, I did in-home work primarily, going into the inner city, working with families, and we decided to integrate both. And the book really is a guide to help repair relationships, a tool like a handbook where you can pick up the book and learn about ways to build your marriage or ways to overcome family conflict. Ways to navigate singleness.
Yes.
Even students as well, how to navigate the process of school. So it gives practical tools to help us solve problems like more immediate.
Okay. Excellent.
Yes.
Guys, we're working with cue cards today, man. We're live.
We're live.
Here.
We're prepared.
Here.
Go ahead.
Great stuff, man. I wish I had something to work with my father on, man. I remember working with my father and doing things and going out. My father's always the one to take us apart school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was that guy, and he's still here. But I just that would be really nice.
Yeah.
Now, prepared questions. I'm ready. How do you disrupt patterns of thinking and behaviors that lead to relational problems?
That's a great question. So how do you break patterns?
How do you break the patterns?
That will lead to relational problems? Many times patterns, they're a part of us, right? We live with these patterns.
Yeah.
And many times it's connected to past grievances, things that happened in the past that are unresolved.
Right.
And you talked about transparency earlier.
Yes.
And that's one of the key aspects of getting help, being honest. And you know what? I'm dealing with some things and it's creating patterns. The book talks about bad habits because these patterns, they spill over into our lives. They affect us on our job. They affect our relationships. So these patterns of thinking, from a spiritual perspective, Pastor Lafavor, he talks about doing a lot of prayer because that's one way that you can break habits. Another thing is cognitive behavior therapy, where you identify the thought and you look at ways to change that thought, because if you can change the thought, you can change the action. So we look at that. There's another model of therapy called solution-focused therapy, and that really looks at do what works, right? Because there are times where you don't have these disruptive thoughts, and even if it's small, let's weigh on it. Let's weigh in on it, and how can we leverage that to help you work towards goals? So we look at key things that we can do in a practical way to help people overcome patterns.
Say what's on your mind.
Say what's on your mind.
Say what's on
Say
your
what's
mind.
on your mind.
Say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the saying right now. I really can't think of it. But it says, unvoiced problems are it's coming. Unvoiced problems are premeditated anguish.
Wow,
I love that.
Because you're planning on being upset because you didn't already say anything about what you needed to say.
I like that.
Yeah.
You're planning that. You're literally going, I'm gonna get mad at you because I didn't say anything earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be a big thing, Me and my wife have this thing. Sometimes I just don't say nothing. I'm just like, but I'm like, hold on. I heard that saying the other day. I said, no,
Yeah.
let's talk.
Mhm.
Say what you need to. I'm always telling her to do it.
Yeah.
It never dawned on
It's you
me
that you should do it
that
yourself.
I
Yeah.
should be the one saying, "Yo, this is how
Yeah.
I feel about this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let's walk through it. Let's
Yeah,
walk
walk
through
through
it
it, yeah.
and make it through it." So it's on you, Dirk.
So a lot of times, you just say that. A lot of times we think about these things, and it comes to the fact of fear.
Yes.
And we're angry about something because we're fearful of the outcome. There's one aspect of the book that I wanted you to talk about was putting problems in context. There's an aspect of the book you talk about, like seeing yourself outside of the problem. Sometimes we place ourselves as we try to generate the blame on ourselves, and sometimes there's another way of looking at the problem differently, different kind of perspective. You want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a quote that says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.
Yeah.
Right? And many times there are problems that are taken out of context, but all behavior makes sense in context. So if you give me a problem, right, I want to know what the context is.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens is if you don't understand context, it'll spill over into other aspects of your life. For example, you have a problem at home with your spouse, and then you take it to work, and it is taken out of context, and you take it out of your boss. So that's usually what happens with context, and this takes a lot of self-awareness.
Yes.
Because all of us are guilty of pointing the finger. It's you.
Exactly.
And it's hard to do some reflection and to look within ourselves and say, you know what, man, let me see how I'm contributing to this problem. And communication is a two-way street.
Yeah.
But most of the time we do it as if it's a one-way street.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So one thing that I did want to ask you too is that spiritual intervention, right? So you talk about is necessary for a prescription for a problem.
Yes.
Now, what about other therapists who are not spiritual? They won't concur with you about that. They just feel like it's mental illness, and that's where it stays at. How do you have an answer to that type of question from another therapist per se?
And different therapists, they do practice, different strategies. They also may have different theoretical perspectives. But the goal of the therapist is the helping profession, right? Obviously, when you integrate spiritual, then you have another dynamic that can really help expand the person and help them overcome problems. So, for example, when you think of a clinician that may be using cognitive behavior therapy, well, that is also relevant spiritually because from a spiritual perspective, the scriptures say, well, let this mind be in you, which is in Christ. So you also think about things which are true, lovely, right up a good report. So really, you're trying to change thinking patterns. And when I think of clinicians, a clinician job is not to give you the answer. It's really to walk alongside you.
Okay.
Right? And help you to process and work through. And many times people go to counseling for the answer.
Yeah.
But you have the answer. You just have to go within and you have to
find it.
Define it.
Yeah.
And the clinician's job is to get us from beneath the rock pile of all that we're dealing with to really work through our challenges and work through our problems. So a good clinician that understands that, they partner with you. And they help you identify, well, what is your goal and what steps is taken to get towards that end goal.
That's a different mindset because you always think that when you go to a clinician, you go to somebody who's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they're supposed to answer every aspect of what's going on with your life.
I got something for that. Yeah, they're supposed to fix it all.
They're supposed to fix it all. They're supposed to give you the answer like, I'm feeling this way. I want to not feel this way anymore. Because one of the aspects you talk about is feelings. Controlling. Either you or your dad was kind of discussing feelings and how to control your feelings. I think your dad was talking about the fact that it took him a long time to get over his feelings about stuff. Me and Dee always talk about this whole eating through your feelings, gambling through. People talk about gambling through their feelings.
Driving through your feelings.
Driving through their feelings. Different aspects of things like that.
Yeah, and there are times where a person may need a prescription when you may integrate a psychiatrist if their level of anxiety is getting in the way of their functioning. And I think when it comes to mental health, there's such a stigma on getting help.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there is.
Yeah.
Especially in our community.
And
Yeah.
and even as men reaching out for help.
Yes.
But it's so important to create space. You
Mhm.
talk about trust.
Mhm.
You talk about fear, working through fear, where
Yeah.
we can really just be vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is hard for men to be vulnerable. But when it comes to the mental health, it's so important to. We don't talk about this a lot in school,
Mhm.
but children need to learn about feelings. You need to learn
True.
about
Yeah.
emotions.
How to
You need
deal
to learn
with
about
them.
Deal with
anger.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to learn about fear.
Exactly.
And then how to work through these feelings so
Mm.
you won't make bad decisions.
Exactly.
Because inability to manage your feelings will cause you to lash out in a situation that may cost you in the long run.
Working with this marital situation, right? People come see you. They probably see you as couples, right? So working with this, right? How do you navigate the people that actually just called you so you could be on their side to convince their partner?
That is a great question.
So I just want somebody
How
on
do
my
you
side.
That's a
navigate?
good question.
So they can just he's gonna stay on my side. Hey, make sure, Pastor, you let him know exactly what he's been doing wrong.
Let her know what you said last week in church, Doc. I heard it.
Yeah, but that's challenging, right?
Yeah.
Because a clinician, you have to be unbiased.
Yeah.
And that's real hard. And I work real hard to not align with a man because of your perspective on this problem.
Yes.
And I want to be neutral.
Yes.
Right? Because it's unfair if you come to counseling and I align with you
Yeah.
and your wife has this perspective. So that wouldn't be very helpful. So my goal is to be neutral, and my goal is to see how both of you contributed and created this problem and how we can work together and get you aligned. I like to illustrate couples as, for example, a car with the alignment. You can get 4 new tires on your car, but if you don't get it aligned, you're going to wear out the tires.
Correct.
Right? Same thing in relationships, right? You can have these tools and all of these things, but if you don't get aligned, I like to give couples a mission statement. What's our purpose?
Yeah.
What's our goal? And that helps us to be more aligned to move towards, what God has desired for us to do.
Really good. So let me tell you, I'm gonna go through. There's one other question I want to ask. I have like a million questions.
He's ready, man.
I'm ready.
He's ready, man.
This built up over a long period of time. So Doc, this is a little bit more serious. So Nadal Hassan, right, was an Army psychiatrist. November 2009. He ended up having, I guess, a psychological break, and he ended up killing like 13 people, wounding 30 people. Of course, he ended up getting shot. Of course, I don't think he died in the situation. But long story short, I'm looking at the fact that he was an Army psychologist. He was about to be deployed. Maybe he got upset about that. I don't know what the difference is. But this is not the first time you'll find a psychiatrist or somebody in the mental health who's supposed to help somebody with mental health. They themselves have a mental breakdown. How does that happen?
That's an excellent question. It's sad situation. I believe that we should continue to seek and reach out for help. And even though you are in the helping profession, you need supervision. You need accountability because you're dealing with problems all day long.
Exactly.
And I feel like if you don't get your own talk about self-care.
Self-care,
Exactly. You have to have your own self-care because if not, you really never know your capacity and what that can cause if you don't get the proper help and support that you need. So in a situation like that, we don't know all of the reasons why that happened, but it's definitely an unfortunate situation. But from my perspective, I do believe how important it is for your own self-care, your own support, even if you need counseling, not being afraid to get your own counseling.
Your own
as well.
counseling. Exactly.
So yeah.
So how do you, as a counselor, who do you decide to pick to count? Because everybody doesn't have the best advice. And then you probably can assess people based on how they deal with other individuals or how they are as their own character and integrity. Like maybe I should pick this individual to do the counseling with. Probably your dad is probably one of the best persons to do it with. But who do you decide to pick in terms of helping you?
I look at track record. I like to look at track record. You speak of character and integrity. So it's like anything. When we decide to invest in something, obviously in ourselves, we want to make sure that, that this is the right person. I check online. I do my references. I maybe word of mouth. Someone referred to me, but I definitely want to do a good, thorough background check if I can to make sure that this person is a good fit before I open up my life to that person.
Correct.
Okay. Good fit. What do you mean? Like a lot of people be like, okay, well, I want somebody that was been in the church.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Pastored maybe. You know what I'm saying? Has done something I'm already doing. Written a book maybe. You know what I'm saying? A mentor of sorts.
Someone's been vetted.
But someone's been vetted. How do you vet someone to be your
mental counselor?
Mental counselor. What would a regular layperson vet somebody to be their counselor?
Yeah, so they have Psychology Today. They have different websites where you can go and find out if this person is a good fit. I know for some platforms that I'm on, people call in. They know what they want. Ethnically, they know what they're looking for. Spiritually. And many times they've done their research and even clinically what type of model of therapy. So there are different ways to go about finding the best person for you.
So one more thing,
Dave. You good.
One more thing, boss. Another thing. Let me change my vocabulary. Another thing. Could you give our audience 2 things they could surefire look for? I mean, like ask to vet somebody. Like something you would ask. First things first, second things second. All of the rest of this is, icing on the cake. Yeah. But what would be like something very super important for them to ask first?
Yeah. I think understanding the counselor's worldview is important because your worldview informs how you're going to help me. Okay. And if you were to use as a metaphor, what set of lenses do you look out of the world? So, for example, from a Christian perspective, you may say, well, I want a Christian counselor and I want someone who understands mental health and can integrate both. Okay. So I think of that as a good way to, and then you also want to look at, again, their background. You want to make sure from a character standpoint, look at what are some reviews, what's being said about their clinical work, and who they've been able to help. Okay. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Reviews.
Get to them. Reviews. Get to them.
Don't just jump on. Don't just
jump on
anybody.
Jump on anybody.
Don't just let anybody lead
into your head.
Okay.
You want anybody.
You want everybody in there now.
Exactly.
But get somebody in there. Okay?
Exactly.
Get some help. We all need it.
Exactly. We all need it.
Absolutely.
And they can find you through which options?
Yes. How can they find you? You can find me on our website, Lafavor Family Therapy Services.com. Okay. That's our website, and you can find out more about the work we do there.
Awesome. Okay. And you presently also, what do you do now consistently, on a consistent basis? What does your everyday life look like presently right now?
Actually, I actually just transitioned to a new role. Okay. I am the assistant principal of a preparatory school.
Oh, wow.
Preparatory school. So I have the privilege of working with youth daily, and it's been a blessing for me.
Okay, that's great, Doc. See, this is the reason why you got to catch up with people. Okay, so you do that, and then you've written several books besides this book. You've written another book besides Repairing and Rebuilding Relationships. What's the name of the other book? Rebuilt Life. Rebuilt Life Before and After the NFL. Okay. That book discusses my transition from the NFL to how I rebuilt my life after. Okay, we can find this on Amazon. Yes, both books are on Amazon. Yes. We're going to have the link in the description for you guys so you to purchase the books. I appreciate that. And so, Doc, what are you doing in the future? What does your future look like? In the future, I'm looking to take our book that we wrote on rebuilding and repairing relationships, and we're going to develop a curriculum and teach classes from that book. Okay. We do youth empowerment. We do that, and I've been fortunate to use my other book, Rebuilding and Repairing Relationships, to really look at some of the challenges that youth face and to help them to navigate some of those challenges. And serving in ministry, I continue to serve alongside my father and just really help as many people as I can and integrate faith and the clinical to help people really achieve their goals. That's good, Doc. That's good, Doc.
Yeah, Doc.
Yeah, man. Daryl, you have anything to add, D?
Yes, I got plenty more. I got some in the chamber, Doc. I've been holding on.
You been holding on?
I've been holding on. Okay, switching gears a little bit, going entrepreneurial wise, what was the hardest part about writing this book?
That's an excellent question. Just being disciplined and developing a routine. I had a coach to assist me and my father in the process. So her goal was to make sure we do our homework and submit something daily. You need to write daily.
Write daily.
So that was something that I did, and developing a good team when it comes to the book cover and all that. So, but it took over a year to write it, but it was rewarding to do.
How did you get over the edits? Like, you trying to perfect it? I have a biggest issue on perfection sometimes. Like, it has to be so perfect, and you don't end up actually executing it.
I learned that, right? So my job was not to edit. My job was to just write the book and then hire an editor to go through that process for me.
Okay.
And obviously, no book is perfect. You may find something minor, but to be able to get the book out of you is the key thing.
Correct.
And I think that's the most important thing.
Get it out.
Get it out. You got to get it out there.
Do it. I tell my wife all the time, get to it. I said, just
just
do
get
it.
to it,
right? Just do it.
Just start. Just
Exactly.
start. I've had recently I've had some employment doing live streams.
Yeah.
Right? And somebody calls me out of the blue. But that morning, I broke down. I say, Lord, what do you need me to do?
Yeah.
Send the help. I said, I can't sit here and act like I can hold it together no more.
That's good.
Correct.
What do you need me to do? An hour later, somebody calls me to do something that I don't normally do at all.
Yeah.
And they're like, charge what you want to charge. I'm like, that doesn't work, but I know that's not going to work. But I did get a chance, and I'm so iffy about things that I don't normally do.
Yeah.
Like, I can do it.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Yeah.
I've not called it my profession.
Yes.
So I'm scared to call and be like, yeah, this is this and this is
Absolutely.
that. Even though I can come up with the invoice, I can come up with the cameras. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm on my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to call them and to be like, what do you want out of this? What can I give you? What can I supply you?
Yeah.
Was like a hurdle.
Really?
But when I threw it back on myself and said, what do you always tell your wife?
True.
Go.
Go.
Get it done. Start. They don't care whether you want to do this or not. Just call.
Yeah.
And then you sat up here and pray to God and ask Him for all of this, and then you don't want to. Like, God, like I sent you the raft.
Exactly.
I sent you the 20-foot boat.
Yeah, exactly.
I sent you a cruise liner,
So
and none of them you jumped on.
Yes.
So I said, you know what? Let me do it.
Yeah.
I got it done. Now I'm working in it, but that was something that I had to like just go do.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Get creative.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the first things that God ever decided to do was to create.
Because create, exactly.
Like, hold on.
Yeah.
Create.
I love that. Create something. Yeah.
Well, when you said that, there's two things. There's a saying: beginning is half done.
Ooh.
Oh wow. I like that.
Right?
Ooh, I like
Beginning is half done. And then when you mentioned overcoming the feelings, there's a quote that says, feel the feeling and do it anyway. Because many times those feelings can be a roadblock to us actually reaching our goal.
Correct.
And many times you have to just work through those feelings. Even with like public speaking or something, you just feel those feelings and you do it anyway. And just believe you're going to do a good job. Believe in yourself.
Ooh, I tell the kids all day, go up there and sing. What you scared of? And then I come home and be like, I don't know if I'm calling them back for this. I don't know. I don't know if I'm worth it. I don't know if I'm worth this money. You go through sometimes you go through those feelings and you have to deal with them. You have to hit them head on and make it part of you that this is something I need to do as a discipline.
Correct.
Like, just go ahead, get uncomfortable.
Yes.
Just hop out of that comfort.
Yes.
Okay? Because it's gonna stall you, it's gonna slow you down. And I don't want to slow down this podcast. Dirk, you got any more questions?
I got a million more questions. We'll be here all day long.
Hit him with the questions, Doc.
We'll be here all day long.
Let's go 4 more.
Okay, 4 more. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and this is very important.
Let's do it.
Is emotional intelligence. How important is emotional intelligence? They say people who tend to be very wealthy happen to have very high emotional intelligence. So, can you expand on that for us?
I think that's vital when you have good emotional intelligence, and when you do have it, it helps you to relate better with people.
Okay.
You know, being able to have, I call it insight, not only into your own emotions, but also have aware of other people's emotions as well.
Yeah.
And it helps you to navigate life a little better
Yes.
when you have good emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
There are people who have good IQ, but they don't do well in that area of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But that's something that it's a journey. We're always strengthening that.
Yes.
With that,
What is emotional intelligence? Is it really picking up on the cues of people's emotions, their mannerisms, or seeing or being sensitive to how they feel? What is emotional intelligence itself?
In relationships, for me, I always like to teach people the importance of being aware of other people's demeanor, even in your relationship with your spouse, right? The nonverbals, right? Nonverbals is like 95% of communication.
Yes, it is.
But people don't pay a whole lot of attention to what people are saying when they're not speaking.
Body language.
It's body language.
Yes.
Right?
Posture.
Posture,
Choice of words. How you use
how you use
inflections.
all of the above.
Yes.
So that's so important, and that's something that we constantly strengthen on a daily basis. It's something that we continue to hone in on.
How do you make, because it's almost like, when you're married and your wife is ready to go, she gives you that look like, hey, it's time. She doesn't have to say anything, but it's time to go. When you're at a party with somebody, that's
that look, right?
That look.
I'm gonna tread lightly. I'm not gonna show any face. You understand?
But having been married, I know that there's
probably some happy homes over here.
You know what I'm saying?
This podcast is going live.
I'm not trying to disrupt anything. I'm just saying there's certain.
But you can trip into
I know. We're not going into dangerous territory. We're just saying that there's looks, right? That that this individual is telling you, hey, like it's coming telepathically, like this is time to go. It's time to leave, or because I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? So, like in the process, we learn this through relationships with the opposite sex, being with a wife or a partner. So how do you use that?
That's a good question.
How do you use that to help promote the relationship? You know what I'm saying? It's as used as a negative,
Talk about getting in trouble with that question.
See, I'm single. I can get away with this.
I teach a relationship class, and one of the illustrations I like to use is that both individuals come to the relationship with a shopping cart of stuff.
Okay.
And many times you get in trouble when you go in someone else's cart and try to mess with their stuff.
Try to
rearrange it.
Right, try to rearrange, right? So I think it's important to always work on yourself. And many times we blame others and we project some of those things that we're dealing with on our spouse. And you talk about those little nuances. Relationships take work.
Correct.
And,
they do.
We talk.
They're exhausting. It can be exhausting, right?
No, man. That look can either be good for you or bad for you.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It can be. It determines
But
how you want it to turn out.
That's the thing. How do you want
to be right?
Yeah,
or do you want to be happy?
Yeah. That's the thing. How do you determine?
Because you could be happy together.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Separate from what's going on.
Correct.
Just make sure. My issue is if we're gonna do this, make sure we're happy together after this.
Yeah.
When we leave, you know what I'm saying?
Is that's true. People stop doing the thing they did to get the person.
Ooh. Yes. And they stop dating the person.
They do.
Yes.
And many times when I talk with couples, take me back to when you first met.
Yes.
What was it about this person? And then when you start talking about that, it rekindles right that fire that sometimes has gone out.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about that, the journey of first meeting.
Yes.
And when you go back and rebuild. Talk about rebuilding in the book. There's a lot of repair work that has to be done. Because over time, there's a scripture that talks about how a wise woman builds her house up with her hands. But then the other aspect of it, you can tear it down.
With your words.
Yes. Yeah. But then it tells men to dwell with your wife in understanding.
Yes, correct.
So it tells us to do that. Right?
So you got to expand on that.
So
Just give me a nugget from that
Doc.
word. Just give me
Grow
something
with
I
your
can
wife
take
and
home with
understanding,
from
Doc. How
that.
do you do that?
Go with your wife and understand. I just need something, Doc. Don't give me. I don't need a deep understanding. I just want to step my toe in there and just trying to understand where you might be coming from when the word says that.
When the word say dwell with your wife in understanding, right? The two shall become one. I was doing some meditation and it said that God, when it comes to divorce and they were trying to trip Jesus up and say, well, why did Moses even give the certificate anyway?
Yeah.
He said because of people's heart.
The
Right?
heart
It really
moves to
was
their heart.
their heart, right? So when you think of the heart, there's something hard to navigate. But when you go back to dwelling with understanding, understand the heart of the person, right? And then when you think of understanding, understand what that person's needs are.
Correct.
I know my needs, but when you understand what a person's needs are, and then not only do you want to understand it, but you want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing, even when you don't feel like it.
Yes.
True. The situation might be you're at, with the family.
Correct.
And they need to be around family,
Correct.
but they want to leave.
Yeah.
You might know better. You might be like, you need to be around these people right now.
Exactly.
And it'll lift you up because I've watched you. I know you. We know each other.
Yeah.
It's best for us to be around this.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in a situation where you know it's finna get live, she don't like her auntie. Her auntie don't like her,
cousins.
and it's finna get hot and hated. You should. I feel like we're on the perch.
Yeah.
We're on the perch going.
That's
hold
emotional
on.
intelligence right there.
That's perfect. And I like. That's a good example of having the other person's back.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
And many times in relationships, there's times where you don't have my back, and I become resentful.
Correct.
And over time, when resentments build, then it becomes a problem for relationships.
Correct.
Yes, and that's how over time you have these unresolved conflicts, but they build up. They build up. I like to use in counseling children. What happens if you shake a soda can up and you open it? Yeah. It's going to explode. Correct. And many times people have all these built up things, and all of a sudden it's something small. And you say it blew up because of that, but no, it's all the other unresolved things.
Hasn't been corrected. A lot of times those hurts have not been corrected, and the person on the other side just kind of goes over them. They might have expressed it, but then the individual's like, it didn't feel as important to them as it is to the other individual because they didn't express it properly, or they didn't take or validate it at that moment.
And sometimes feeling safe to talk. Like relationships have to be safe.
Correct.
And
safe spaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we have these patterns, what we talked about earlier, if we have a pattern of becoming angry when someone speaks their truth, they're gonna close down.
They're gonna close down.
Yeah.
They're gonna shut down.
But if we make it safe and we work on ourselves and say, man, I didn't respond the best way there. And when you mention things that happen, sometimes we sweep it under the rug. We don't talk about it.
Talk about it.
Right? But the scripture says, let the sun go down on these things.
Ooh.
Yeah, don't let the sun go down.
Don't let the sun. Ooh.
How many times
I did that yesterday.
The
Woke up this morning full fire.
Oh my God.
The sun was out this morning. You hear me? It was that type. I just did that, and I was like, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
That was not my intention.
Yeah.
I was in my feelings. You were in your feelings. We didn't came apart, and we did not said nothing about it, swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And now the next morning, it is hellfire and brimstone because we didn't resolve it before it got to the next day. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
You upset. I'm upset. We having bad dreams, trying to figure out why we can't sleep good. Got to replace the bed because we ain't talked about what we needed to talk about.
Yeah, that's true. And that's when you talk about emotional intelligence. I like growth. Think about growing. Your relationships, it's about growth. It's a journey. So when you look at growth, in the past, I would look bad and I wouldn't say anything, but now that I've grown, I'm going to work through this feeling. I'm going to say, how I feel.
There it is. There it is. I'm not going to attack you to say it.
Yeah.
That's the difference, though. A lot of people think they have to say it a backhanded way to get it through. And you can just say, look, I don't want to start an argument. I don't want us to be at odds, but I want you to know that this affected me in a certain type of way. Now, the response after that,
I'm not.
The emotional intelligence you have to be like,
to do that.
yes, and maybe even be slighted by the return.
Yeah, of course.
But you have to be. Like once again, I love my wife. Thank you, Tam.
Thank
I
you,
love
Sam.
my wife. Thank you, Tam. Just bring it to my mind, man. Bring it to my mind. I tell my wife, when you give a gift,
Yeah.
it's a gift.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yeah.
If you want it back, that's when things can get complicated. When you want it all back the way that you sent it,
Yeah.
that's
Your
when things
intention.
that's your intention gets complicated. Now you're expecting things that you
Mm.
didn't tell anybody that you expected back. I want you to go do something with this gift I gave you.
Correct.
Okay, go do it.
Yeah. Expectations.
Multiply it.
Those secret expectations.
Secret expectations.
Expectations. We talked about that. Having secret expectations. That's one thing I realized that also people have because based on their culture, based on their own family history, they have expectations when they come into a relationship. Like, I expected you to take out the garbage at 5 a.m. My daddy did it, so how come you don't do that? You know, and I thought you were supposed to be. I thought you were supposed to fix stuff around the house. Well, I'm not a handyman. We never did that. We hired somebody to do that. So then the expectation is like, well, why aren't you doing what I expected you to do? But you never communicated that to me. So I have no clue of what you expect, and now you're mad at me. You're fuming in the corner, but I don't even know why you're fuming because you expected me to, okay, when I came in, I'm supposed to greet your father a certain type of way. I'm supposed to greet your mother a certain type of way. And I'm a silent, strong and silent, so I'm not talking about me. And I was off in the corner. I didn't talk to nobody. Hey, what's wrong with your husband? He don't talk to nobody. He think he better than us? You know, so those type of things. How do you preempt? What I really wanted to talk about, how do you preempt all of this stuff from happening? Because it sounds very exhausting as a single person. Even a person who's been married, I understand that, but still, it sounds exhausting.
You know, ideally, you would have started out right, meaning you communicate your expectations.
Correct.
Because, as you mentioned, secret expectations, but perhaps they're just uncommunicated
Yes.
expectations. And we talk about dating in the book a lot.
Okay.
And examples of your dating, it's like a resume, right? You don't want to use that language, but it's just an example of you getting to know the person and seeing if they're going to be a good fit for you.
Correct.
And you see if you really match in values.
Yes.
Right? Because you can work through the other things, but if you have good solid values, that's so important. But as you mentioned, uncommunicated expectations over time become resentments.
Yeah, familiarity breeds contempt.
Exactly.
Right, here it is.
Yeah. So how do you, like I said before, going back to it, how to preempt these things? Like one of the things. So, if you're a single person, you're looking for an individual to get married to. How do you get out? Because you could explain all this stuff. Try to go through as many things you can, scenarios. You're not going to get through every scenario because everything is different. You have to see them in discovery as you keep going. So how do you preempt all this strife from happening by either picking the right person with the best values you possibly can, or finding out how to make sure you date them the whole time so you don't have issues where you're building up bitterness. What do you need to do?
That's an excellent question. Right?
Yes.
With multiple responses and perspectives, but what I'll go back to is really from a Christian perspective, you want to make sure that you start out right. And if you have those strong values, meaning a person's honest, person of integrity, and then you align there, truthful, that's a good place to start.
Okay.
But as far as relational skills, right, this is a journey.
Okay.
And you want to keep on developing and honing those skills and keep working on yourself. And how do you prevent conflict? You're going to have conflict. All relationships have conflict. And as you mentioned earlier, it's not really what you say, it's really how you say it. And many times, we're passionate people. Sometimes it doesn't come out the way you want it to.
Why does it have to be conflict? I mean, I've had relationships where there really wasn't a high level conflict at all. You might have a disagreement, but it depended on how they interpret the problem or the conflict. It was never really like a conflict. It was really more like just a different perspective. They deal with problems differently. So, for instance, I knew an individual who, if they got upset, they would go off for a little while, say, hey, listen, I'm going to go off for a little while. Let me think. Just leave me alone, and then I'm going to resolve this. They came back, they forgave it, and they moved on. Some people are like, well, this is in the past. Why are you still mad about this in the future. I'm not even thinking about that problem anymore. Other person, well, we need to adjust this because this hurt me at a certain level, and I didn't feel validated that you said anything. Some people are not that sensitive where it didn't bother them, where they could just go on and whatever you thought was bothering them, it didn't bother them anymore. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Yeah. I'm the expert. I'm asking the rest of the doc about this.
Who was married for a number of years, and the marriage didn't work out.
Okay.
And I was asking them why did it? And they said respect.
Respect,
He
yes.
stopped respecting me,
Mhm.
and essentially start crossing boundaries, and before you know it, just deteriorated the relationship.
I got you.
There's a book they call Women Want to Be Loved and Men Want to Be
Respect
Respected.
it,
Yes.
So over time, man, when there's just a lack of reciprocated love and respect, it just deteriorates your relationship over time.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned that there are some couples that do this well, I would like to describe those couples as a good team,
Yeah.
right? If you were to use a basketball metaphor, some people take their ball and go home.
Yes,
They're
correct.
obsessed.
Exactly.
But a good team, they're willing to work together. You know, you shoot the ball today,
Yeah.
you shoot it. But let's be a team and
Correct.
let's work together towards the common goal. But again, that takes a lot of work to be on the same page and stay on the same
They
page.
call it in the streets ride or die.
Ooh, teamwork. Well, I got a personal question.
We got a whole therapy.
We got a whole therapy.
We trying to ask all the questions we can get, Doc.
You have those teams where, or you have those players on the team that always have like this solo mentality. You know what I'm talking about. You know, you got those guys.
Yeah.
You got those guys. I'm talking about guys. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm talking about teams. I'm not talking
anybody else.
about. I'm not
Don't make
talking
any-
about my relationship. Right now.
Exactly.
So, just like Derek said, I'm not talking about anything about me. Here we go. But you got those guys on the team that they're part of the team, but they're solo stars.
Yeah.
Like they go off or you got those solo husbands that can do for themselves
Yeah.
all day,
Yes.
and sometimes their wife may be like, well, I don't feel like I can help you because you're already
You're already there.
you're already self-sustaining yourself. Like what things could we use to help that team become a better team? Like sometimes we have teams where we get in with these other players and the object gets to get here, but you're doing the same thing I'm doing. But in my head, teams, you do something else over here and I do something else over here that culminates to that one goal being done. But if you're right behind me doing the exact same thing,
Yeah.
that's my team mentality, and I'm trying to see if I'm off on it or if I'm on it, or should it be a change? Are there different types of teams
Yeah.
and teamwork?
You're right on. You're right on. So first thing, insanity is doing the same thing, thinking you're going to get different results.
Ooh.
I would understand. Yeah.
When you mention a team, the first thing, are we winning?
Are we winning?
We're winning. Yeah.
Together, but
Yes.
are we winning?
Winning.
Are we
Yes.
winning relationally? Are we winning for the next generation? Are we really winning in our home?
Yeah.
Because anybody can put up a facade.
Okay.
But are we winning? And you mentioned team. Everyone has roles on the team. I'm back from the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen days, right? But the question is, can we be comfortable in our role? And that is so important. So back to your question, team, goal. And that's why I have couples create a vision statement. Like, what is the reason? What's our purpose for being together? Why did God put us together? And when you do that, it gives you something to aim towards. Because when you have something to aim towards, you can go back and say, babe, I think we've gotten a little far off from our purpose. And we need to get aligned again. And when you find yourself aligned, there's peace. Right? You want peace in your home.
Correct.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, you do.
That takes a lot of work.
Yeah, you do. This is a approved message.
Takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work. It takes some time and some work. Due time.
Due time. In due time.
I'm bringing it back around. Due time. And in due time, this was so much fun. Dirk.
Hey, listen.
Man,
Listen,
Doc.
we always get the best.
Doc, this is always the best. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, like all great things, this too
Must
must come to an end.
Yeah.
This is the D&D Leveling Up Podcast. And if you don't know, now you know. Hey, guys, this was, oh my gosh. Like, you gotta say it. I'm trying to wonder my way around this question. This is going out in public. I'm like, I need somebody else's insight.